Today I want to look at how we resolve disputes when we have them between one and another. People have different ways of seeing things, and we need a way of knowing whether or not the other person is being honest in how they are presenting, how they see things. We need a way of them stating something as true, and knowing that they are being above board with their actions. And Scripture actually gives us a means by which we can do this. Disputes with people will happen, and we are given in the Torah instructions that are given in the context of loving your neighbor in Leviticus 19. It says, "Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yehovah." I would say that you can take that as don't stand against their interests. "Do not hate your brother in your heart. Reprove your neighbor for certain, and bear no sin because of him." So, some important aspects of this. It says, don't go slandering among your people. If you've got objections to somebody, what you don't do is you don't go to confidence people close to you and give your side of the story. That's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to reprove your neighbour, because if you don't reprove them and you go slandering or gossiping about how you see things and about how things make you feel, then you will bear sin. You will, in front of Yehovah, have sin in regards to the situation, regardless of whether the other person is doing wrong. You are to remain blameless, to remain sinless. If they won't listen to you, what you do, according to Yeshua in Matthew 18, is you take someone else with you, so that every word might be established in the hearing of 2 or 3 witnesses. Now what that is you bring your objection to the person while there are witnesses around. Doesn't mean you go to those witnesses and give your side of the story and then get them to come along as backup for you. Also, it doesn't say go to the person. If they won't hear you, then suggest that maybe you should speak in front of witnesses, and if they agree, then bring the witnesses with you. People are not going to agree to that, especially if they think that their behaviour has been somewhat in the wrong. They're not going to want to restate it in front of people. So what you do is you just take the witnesses and speak to the person about it. That's what Scripture says to do. There's no asking of permission in there. In Hebrews 6, we read, "For men do indeed swear by the one greater, and an oath for confirmation is for them an end of all dispute." And this isn't something that the author of Hebrews was just kind of spitballing, they made up on the spot. This is something that we get from the Torah, that an oath for confirmation is an end of all disputes. So you go to somebody, you speak to them, you acknowledge that you are before Yehovah and what they are speaking is the truth. And then if they swear an oath that they are speaking the truth, that's an end of all dispute. You don't take it any further than that, because if they are lying, if they're not speaking the truth, then they have done so before Yehovah, and you leave that to Yehovah to deal with. And if they are speaking the truth, as people often will be, even if you don't think they are, then they have sworn before Yehovah that it is true, and you are to take that as the end of the dispute. Exodus 22 says, when a man gives to his neighbour a donkey or ox or sheep or any beast to watch over, and it dies or is injured or is driven away while no one is looking, let an oath of Yehovah be between them both, that he has not put his hand into his neighbour's goods, and the owner of it shall accept that. Okay, so an oath for confirmation is an end of the dispute. If someone says, this has happened to your property, and you suspect that they have stolen whatever it is, if they make an oath before Yehovah, that is an end of the dispute for the reasons that I stated. Either they are telling the truth or they are lying. But that is now Yehovah's business to deal with if they're lying. If they're telling the truth, and people often will be telling the truth even when you see things differently, then you have to accept the thing that they have sworn before Yehovah. Exodus 22 also says, when a man gives silver or goods to his neighbour to guard, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, he repays double. If the thief is not found, then the master of the house shall be brought before Elohim to see whether he has put his hand into his neighbour's goods. For every matter of transgression, for ox, donkey, sheep, garment, or for whatever is lost, which another claims to be his, let the matter of them both come before Elohim, and whomever Elohim declares wrong repays double to his neighbour. So I think this would have been an issue that would have been decided by the Urim and Tumim, but they come before Elohim, and what it is to come before Elohim is perhaps shown to us in 2 Chronicles. Chapter 6 says, if anyone, this is Solomon, when the temple has been built and he's praying to Yahweh, he says, if anyone sins against his neighbour, and he has lifted up an oath on him to cause him to swear, and comes and swears before your altar in this house, then hear in the heavens and act, and justly rule your servants, repaying the wrong by bringing his way on his own head, and declare right the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. So if the person is lying, then Yehovah will recompense that, and if they're telling the truth, then what Solomon is asking is that Yehovah would repay him according to his righteousness. But you see here it says, he comes and swears before your altar in this house. So what coming before Elohim is most likely to have been, in my opinion, is to come before his altar, come to the place where he dwelt on the earth, and physically be before him. The word being panim, it means to be in the presence of, or to be before the face of. Panim is the word for face. And if you are before someone's face, you are in their presence. The word before seems like a reasonable translation. But of course, we are always before Elohim. Also, we can't come before him in distinction to how things usually are. David says, I have set Yehovah always before me, because he is at my right hand. I am not shaken. And the word there is neged. It's leneged. So there's a lamed before it. And you see here, it says there with preposition, which is what the lamed is. It's talking about being in front of, in the sight or presence of Yehovah, because Yehovah has been set so that we are always in his presence. But you recognize that in your mind. Anything that you do is before Yehovah. We don't have a temple to go to, barring the temple of the Ruach. So if you are making oaths to Yehovah, you have come before him to make an oath. So if you have a dispute with anyone and you see things differently, then an oath for confirmation should be an end of all dispute, and you should accept what the other person says. If they've sworn an oath to Yehovah, that's how you deal with it. Numbers 5:12-14 says, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when any man's wife turns aside and has committed a trespass against him, a man has intercourse with her, it's hidden from the eyes of her husband, it's concealed that she defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught, and a spirit of jealousy comes upon the man, he becomes jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or a spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself. So this is going to be whether she has done wrong or whether she hasn't done wrong. It continues and says, the priest shall make the woman stand before Yehovah again. The priest shall make her swear. So this is an oath. If no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness under your husband's authority, be free from the bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have turned aside, if you have defiled yourself, and some other man other than your husband has lain with you, then you bear the consequences of that. So the woman comes before Yehovah, who brings the same sort of consequences that Solomon is talking about when he says, repay them according to the righteousness, or let their wrong come upon their own head. Again, we see the principle that the person comes before Yehovah, swears as to how they see the situation, and then it either turns out well or turns out badly for them, depending on whether they are acting in the right. But it is the end of all dispute. The priest shall make the woman swear with the oath of the curse. So the person is swearing knowing that bad consequences will come upon them if they are to lie before Yehovah. These are the ways that Scripture says to resolve disputes, and there is an end of all dispute because we have escalated it to a higher authority. It's no longer up to us to make a determination of right and wrong. It is up to Yehovah, and that should be a relief to us. Ecclesiastes 8:2 says, I say, guard the king's command because of the oath before Elohim. This is another example of this principle in action. It's actually unsure whether this is talking about the king's command being Yehovah, or whether it's talking about an oath sworn to a human king. But either way, it's the same principle. But what is important for us to take away is that an oath for confirmation is for them an end of all dispute. It's an end to it. So we don't have kind of niggling suspicions of people. We have a way given to us by the Creator to end that dispute and to have a full stop put on it and a line drawn under it. Yehovah willing, I'll see you next week.